Today you're going to have a bit of a chat about a tent that I've been using for about the last 4 years. Now this is the Helsport Ringstind Superlight in the 1-2. So realistically it's a one man with a little bit of space. So you've got a space to get your pack internally. It's about 1 kilo, it's nice and light, it's made of silly nylon, so it compacts really well. It's got a pole structure in it and a whole bunch of pegs. Use it a lot, whether it's just quickly out of the car or whether it's an extended multi-day up into the mountains. This is the tent that I typically grab if I'm by myself. It's nice and light, I can throw it in the pack, it doesn't take up much space. Also fits really well on the push bike, so use it bikepacking as well. I'm going to do a bit of a pitch. We're going to talk about things that I like, some of the things that I don't. I'll also talk about what's happened on the new models, because in this exact form it's no longer made, but we currently stock a slightly updated version, so there's a couple of little differences. I'll cover them off as we go through the long-term review. One of the tricks with pitching a tunnel tent such as this is when you first go to put the pegs in, only put them in one end. I've got the head end here. I'm a little bit particular about how I roll up my tent so I know that they always come out of the bag nicely. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw a peg in each end, and then I'm going to not peg out the rest of it. I'm going to pretty much forget about pegging out the rest. So I'm going to put the pole in next. I love the fact that the Helsport tents all come with a spare pole section and a repair sleeve. Like if you ever actually need it, these are two of the most handy things. I've never had to use them, so I've just sat them there. But now these Helsport tents too, they're integrated pitch. So what that means is it goes up really, really quickly. Right, so I've got the pole in before I've put any other pegs in the ground. And the reason I do that is it makes it so much easier to square up the tent. Pretty much, I can pull the tent straight out, square it, and then start putting a few pegs in the rear. I say the rear because typically this is the end that I use as the footbox end. Now these Helsport tents have got quite a nice little cam lock as far as adjusting of the guy lines. So you can put your finger in and pull it up or move it up with the hand. It just locks really well. So it's got a really simple pole bag that also takes the pegs on the front end. Now, this is probably the highest wear item out of the whole lot. There's little holes in the ripstop in the bottom of it. It's really seen better days. Like if you wanted something that was more durable, then you probably want to replace this. Overall, after 4 years, the fly's worn really well. All the guy lines are still good, the cam locks are good. The pegs, one of the pegs has got a slight bend in it. I must have put it in some pretty hard ground at some stage. I have been a little bit careful, they are light pegs, so I don't tend to bang them in with a hammer or bang them into really hard ground. Ventilation on this tent's pretty good. So externally we've got a little flap here that's then got a little tab underneath it, so that keeps it open. And that takes any of the hot air from the top of the tent. Down the rear of the tent, we've got this large ventilated opening here that's protected by this flap. Now this flap can be Velcroed down here for complete weather resistance, or I typically run it and leave it permanently attached to the guy line. There's a little ring here, and that just keeps it open. It keeps the air flowing up through the tent and out that top vent. This version has 3 little carbon stays here, which does mean that it moves around a little bit in the footbox, and you've got to be a little bit more careful with how you pitch it out just to keep it straight. The new version of this tent, or I should say the updated version, has actually got an aluminium pole in this footbox area. So it's a little bit easier to pitch and it holds its shape in the bottom area of the tent a little bit better than what this particular one does. I'm a huge fan of integral pitch. And what that means for us is that once the tent's pitched and you've pitched the fly, it's a fly pitch first. So the inner actually hangs from the inside of the tent. Means it's quick to pitch. It means that if it's raining, your inner doesn't get wet before you put your fly over the top. It's just a matter of putting the tent out and putting it up. Makes it nice and quick. It's an extra stiff layer of material here over the zip. This is held up really well. Stops the zip from getting caught, acts as a rain drip and a bit of rain protection for over the top of the zip as well. Never really had any issues with this in some rain. Got a small vestibule area that's easily able to be rolled back. And a little bit of space here, perfect for a pair of boots and things. This tent is really a 1.5 man. Some one mans are very coffin-like, whereas this has got a fair bit of space in it, which means for me, and I acknowledge I'm not a particularly big guy, I'm still able to put my tapered sleeping mat and my pack inside the tent. And that way I only need to put the boots and things from the outside. Rightio, so the door rolls back internally just like the vestibule door does. Little toggle there to keep it out of the way. As you can see, there's a fair amount of space in here and more than enough space to also climb in here with a 70 litre pack. Now, if you were in some weather, you could probably get 2 people in here if you had to. You would want to be fairly good friends. There's not a lot of spare space in here, but you could do it if you needed to. The nice little hang toggle in the top that I sometimes use for hanging up a little lantern or clipping a head torch to. The ventilation internally is we've got mesh at the foot end, and then we have a mesh section at the top of the door here. Now the lower material, the yellow material, is still quite breathable, but it's not as breathable as mesh. So in truly hot weather, this isn't probably the tent for you. This is a temperate environment tent, and it will give you a little bit more warmth in winter than some other super light tents. When I pull it down, it's very much just a repeat of how I pitched it. So just a matter of taking one end down, and when I'm doing the final roll, I tend to leave the 2 pegs in the end so it gives me somewhere to sort of fold it from. And one of the things I don't like about the design is the little carbon stays stay attached to the tent. So again, with the upgraded model, that's something that's disappeared. So I've got to make sure that when I fold it over, I put them in the direction that I'm actually going to roll the tent up. And then I'll take off one of the top corners, put the peg there, and then I'm able to fold over the tent. I've still got a peg point in the ground. And the reason I've done that is it gives me something to pull against. It gives me something to tighten the tent up against. Quite often you'd want to use 2 people where you've got one person on the other end, but you know, this is a solo tent, so quite often you're only going to have one. Pull that other peg out. So some people would like to roll the poles up the middle. I don't tend to bother. Sometimes I'll put them in separately in my bag because this can squash down a little bit more. It can go in quite a small space. Or what I do is I'll just slide them in the end down the side. And that gives me the ultimate ability to be able to just pull them out of the bag as well. As you can see, that went in the bag really easy as well. It's nice, it's compact, it's light. There's not really anything I don't like about it. Great little tent. Served me well for the last few years. It's going to continue to serve me well for the next few.